And I have the pleasure to introduce my colleague from Dedeurwaerdere, who is professor of philosophy of science and theory of government, and he is also director of the BioGov research unit, yes, which is part of the Nouvelle Partnership research on ecological and social transition. And if you see his CV, you see that he is working and he has written very nice book on sustainability, environment, problems, governance, and it's a real pleasure to give you the share.
Okay, thanks very much, Dominique. So I'm basically the only person standing between you and the coming lunch, so I will do my very best to keep you awake. I first of all want to thank, of course, the organizers for bringing us all here together. I myself, I've always been working in interdisciplinary environments, so I took this workshop as an opportunity to reflect on interdisciplinarity. And as you can see in the title, I put Understanding the Biophilic Universe. So this topic of biophilic universe, if you know, it refers to the idea that in contemporary cosmology, at least the existence of an observer or an instrument that can observe the expanding universe is one of the constraints to put in your cosmological theory. So there's a kind of human-environment interdependence there in the theory itself. And I would like to put this in a broader concern. This popularity of this approach is part of a whole set of new approaches that try to reflect on the human-environment interdependency, as we have seen in this workshop. But is this relevant and is this valid? So I would like to reflect with you on this. And basically I will sketch a framework, but I also will try to test with you some hypotheses. And one of the hypotheses I will try to test, and perhaps will be confirmed or not, is that quantum theory would not be part of this story. So quantum theory would be interdisciplinary, but would not be part of the story of human environmental models. While cosmology probably might be. So that's one of the things that I would like to reflect on. And another element that will be transparent in my talk is that I start from the viewpoint that if you speak about the interaction between science, ethics, and the arts, for instance, then I'm interested in the cognitive content of these three modes of discourse. And by being interested in the cognitive contents, I do not want to, I want to overcome the idea that interaction is about objectivity, which is physics on the one hand, and subjectivity, which would be the other disciplines on the other hand. And just a brief introduction. So understanding the mutual interdependence between humans and nature, or broader speaking, between human systems and environmental systems of these human beings. We had a talk by André Berger yesterday on the impact of human beings on climate, but basically the impact of human beings on the geological scale. This has been framed in a famous word by saying that we enter in the Anthropocene, a new geological time scale. My point is that the Anthropocene is much broader. It is about two things. First of all, this is a famous picture, which is probably not a real picture. That's right, bees. So a lot of people have been asking Einstein about a quote. We even don't know if it's a quote that he really pronounced. That if all the bees would disappear, human beings would be extinct in the next 4 years. And of course, what is this quote hinting to is the idea of the environment and nature as a life supporting system. So there's an interaction between human beings and life supporting systems. And the title of this workshop, The Biophilic Universe, goes very well in that direction. The weak anthropological principle goes also very well in that direction. But there is a second dimension to it. This is, you can't see it very good, but this is a tree. This is a tree which is standing at the Anne Frank's house in Amsterdam. It made one of the headlines of the New York Times that this tree was dying. And basically when this tree was dying, people started, it's a chestnut tree, people start harvesting this tree, and they call this harvest of tolerance from Anne Frank's tree. And moreover, the Amsterdam municipality didn't take any action. And so people started to protest. There's been protests in Amsterdam that nobody did anything about this tree. And as a result, they cloned this tree, and then they are now planting a new tree from this chestnut to regrow it. So what I'm hinting to is the value of nature and the environment as a sort of meanings. And a good example is poetry, for instance. In poetry, we often refer to to nature. If this nature disappears, we cannot understand this poetry anymore. In the same way, if we want to understand the full writings of Galilei, Newton, there are many references to the environment that would be ununderstandable. So a second dimension of human-environmental interactions. This interaction is invisible through dualism. And dualism is a typical attitude in science. What we do when we study systems, we decompose them. And one way of decomposing is decomposing in the physical systems on one hand and decomposing in the environment system on the other one. If you do that and you study them separately, you cannot see the things that I've just been talking about because of your lens, your glasses, do not allow you to see them. One example from economics. This is from a paper from Herman Daly, who worked at the World Bank. And he distinguishes between economy in an empty world, it's a paper of 1990, and economics in a full world. If you do economics in an empty world, meaning that the human system is very small, and the whole system around the human system, the ecosystem, universe, the nature, is very big, then you don't need to think about these interactions, because the environment is just an input of energy and matter, and we saw yesterday that the system uses energy and matter to self-organize as a living system. But you don't need to think about this interaction. So if you have a dualism between economy and ecosystems in an empty world, you don't see the interdependence. In a full world, if the economy is big, and if the environment, the ecosystem is small, then things become to change, because there will be feedback loops from the environment into the economy. So this world, the human action, will change the environment, and that will feedback. Anyway, these things are very well known, but you can see that these lenses allow you to sum some things in one model, which is, I would say, the dominant, the most used model, which is useful for certain circumstances, certainly, but you don't see certain things, so you need to change your conceptual grid. I could have used Johannes' speech from yesterday as well, and put here a concept of the genome and the body around, or what he explained, the interaction between the genome and the human body, and an interacting system, where the body is the environment of this genomic system. So there are many attempts around of building human environmental systems. So I'm quite optimistic. And if you look at the attempts, basically we are situated in a lot of attempts which do, at least it has to be plural disciplinary, because you need a human system and an environment system. There's a minimum condition. If you stay within your own discipline, you cannot build a model of a human environmental system. But the message here is that it's not enough. Because studying rain is also pluridisciplinary. You need chemistry and you need some physics. And you can have human systems alone without any environmental system and build a cognitive model of language. So you use psychology and you use linguistics. So you have to go beyond pluridisciplinarity, and pluridisciplinarity can be very reductionistic. As you can see, you can reduce within pluridisciplinarity to biophysical systems alone or to human systems alone. So you need two conditions. You need to use these tools of pluridisciplinarity and to envision human environmental systems. The good message of this is that these tools are around. We know very well interdisciplinarity and pluridisciplinarity. So it's possible to study human environmental systems. I would like to suggest that a lot of the discussions in cosmology are here, in pluridisciplinarity of human environmental systems. So we don't need to move till interdisciplinarity, because interdisciplinarity goes further. Interdisciplinarity considers feedback loops between the human environmental system, which obliges you to create new concepts. If you reflect on the emotional response to a nuclear power plant, you will need psychology and you will need risk analysis. You don't need to consider big feedback loops. You have two systems, you can study it. If you think about the concept of Umwelt in cognitive ethology, it's very different. Every animal has its own concept of space, its own concept of time. This concept is called an Umwelt. This concept results from a feedback loop between the cognitive system of living beings and this environment, and there's a co-evolution going on there. There you need interdisciplinarity. And then you have transdisciplinarity, which looks beyond formal mathematical and formal notational systems and includes informal knowledges, non-formalized notational systems. And that's very important in sustainability science. For instance, think about sustainable food policy in cities. Your food behavior will change the environment will change the options for the food behavior in the system. But the knowledge about what's feasible in this environment is embedded in the know-how of the people who act in the city. So all the scientists who are here in sustainable food systems are exploring transdisciplinarity. And it's a concept approved in Horizon 2020, and it's part of an official definition of the funding schemes at EU level. So it's already very advanced. What about quantum systems? So just teasing a bit the hypothesis. This is the single photon measurement for the Paris group in 1999. So what you want to measure is here a cave, a microwave cave, and the system is prepared in order to have one photon. So you would like to measure to verify if there's one photon. So what happens in quantum measurement, you are going to couple it with a second quantum system, which here is a single atom or single atom systems, which is prepared in order to fix the phase of the atoms. So what you want to have is an interaction between these two, and if the phase changes after the interaction, then you would say, I observed the photon. But of course we all know this is not enough. You still need a readout of what happens. You just need the interaction between the two quantum systems, which is the measurement, but you need a readout, and here's the readout in the ionization detectors. So what you really have is that of course, you could imagine, to overcome this problem of the readout, you could imagine to build a third quantum system that measures the interaction between these quantum systems, and so on. But at some point you will need a cut. It's called the Heisenberg cut. This means that at some point you will need a classical system. And of course, the place where you put the Heisenberg cut depends on how far decoherence happens. So, if I study this, I don't need a system with human observer. I don't need cognitive psychology. I just need pluridisciplinarity in terms of quantum mechanics and classical mechanics. And it is pluridisciplinarity because these disciplines work at very different scales, have very different concepts. And so for me, it's very interesting to analyze this because I need pluridisciplinarity in my study of sustainability. So I'm very eager to learn how it happens. But I don't think it's in this box. While if you look at cosmology, it seems that if you reflect on the observer, that at least one constraint that you have to put in is that somehow needs a living system that can build an apparatus which can observe the expanding universe. So it seems that it's a more complex coupling where some basic hypothesis of what are the basic hypotheses on time and space for build just an apparatus needs to be part of your story. So I would put cosmology there. So now, what is the validity of this all? And moreover, how can it evolve? So if we think it is desirable to have a cosmology of human environmental systems, a biophilic universe, to have what André Berger told us yesterday, what Johannes told us yesterday, if it's desirable, how can we move there? Knowing that the major of science is monodisciplinary science, and for very good reasons. But here we have reasons to move elsewhere. So first of validity, something very simple that you all know. This is, for instance, the spring constant by Robert Hooke. So one element, of course, of the validity is the formal mathematical formulation, which allows us to have very precise formulation, and it allows us to have very precise empirical testing. And moreover, it allows us to broaden the dimensionality. You can work in 4, 5, 6 dimensions. You can work with imaginary numbers, as we heard this morning. So it has a lot of advantages, but it's not enough, even in a very standard viewpoint. A standard viewpoint would say that in philosophy of science you have to combine mathematics with the semantics, with interpretation. And one obvious reason is that this is a model which is valid in certain, linear model is valid in certain regions, then you have the nonlinear part of it, then you have the breakdown of the elasticity. And so you need the semantics to know where is the domain of validity of your formal model. And of course, Gödel and Tarski have formalized this all, and we now start from the point of view that you need a conceptual grid which is well defined, which contains the semantics, which links the object with the observation, and you need the mathematics to do the very precise description and the very precise measurements. But there is more to this story. In this part of science, I'm here. I'm in formal notational symbolic systems. Both the syntaxics and the semantics are formal notational symbolic systems. And I think this is key for validity. So one part of the difficulty of this discussion is that people sometimes confuse the validity and the evolution of your theory. Of course, if we are omniscience, if we can know everything, we only need this first line. We don't need anything else. If we could know everything, then the ultimate best way to obtain validity, as we know today, is the combination of this semantics and the syntaxic. But we're not omniscience. We're living in a world where different scientific theories are coexisting. And one classical example is the coexistence of Whitehead's formulation of general theory of relativity and Einstein's formulation. And that's where the discussion on simplicity and elegance of theory comes from, because it was one of the arguments which made people choose Einstein's theory at a time where there was not yet empirical confirmation. So it's part of, these type of arguments are part of the evolution of science, not of the validity of science. So what comes in the evolution of science? A lot of natural language elements, simplicity, coherence, elegance, some of the things that we heard this morning, but also expressive symbols, which goes beyond language. For instance, the design of an experimental apparatus often have been preceded by rough meters which were not graduated, but you just saw moving something when something else happened. This can be a very first concept of causality. This is formed through expressive symbols which can interact with apparatus and which then help you to formulate a hypothesis of causality. Of course, there are some troubles with natural languages. For instance, if I translate the word blue in Italian, you can say aruzzo, for instance, which is the color of the sky. Azzurro, thank you. Azzurro or blue. Blue. But apparently, if I'm right, according to Goodman, blue would be more apparent to the ocean, for instance, while azzurro would be apparent to the sky.
But they are the same.
They are the same.
Because the sky, the sea is blue because it's sky.
So you're making exactly my point. So you're
because of physical effect.
You're getting into fuzziness, except if you translate it back again to a formal notation system. So in reality, we combine these things in science, but we also get into fuzziness. So that's why this can be temporary values, and then you move toward to the formal notation systems. The second example is the use of metaphors also in science, because if you consider that science is a holistic system of syntax and semantics, which then confront with experiments, how to move from one holon to another holon, because both are theories of everything. So there you need metaphors. You need partial symbolic representation, which tease your imagination to move from one to the other. So apparently innovation goes through a dialogue between science, ethics, and the arts. So science can take inspiration from ethical reasoning and from arts and from religion, while ethics, for instance, can be inspired by science in order to revision certain of its own presuppositions. If you think about bioethics, the debate in bioethics will evolve according to our concept of the gene. The arts might broaden the realm of creative expression, of subjective appropriation, by using new understandings of space and time, for instance. So there's all the time a creative interaction between these three fields, and we could call them three fields of world making. And the point is that they all three have a cognitive content. So they can, for instance, all three talk about space and time. And that makes the interaction possible. It's not that one is objective and the other is subjective. So if you would apply this to the cosmological picture, of course there has been an evolution, as we all know, from Ptolemy to Kepler to the current picture. These has very different, they are all kinds of holons, which explain everything. So how can we move from one to another? So we could try to reflect upon what are the key concepts that cross big debates in certain periods of time. And this is more, and I'm going to my last slides, this is more an open slide, and it's part from a future project on which we would like to collaborate, is on the idea, how could we create this interaction between sciences, ethics and arts from a cognitive perspective to enrich the scientific debate. And it's clear that if you look at the period, the end of the 19th century, the first half of the 20th century, there was a lot of happening about reimagining the role of the observer compared to systems. Theory of relativity is clearly part of it, but also the theorem of Gödel and Tarski, which puts, again, semantics within syntaxics. Expressionism, impressionism in the arts, ecumenism in religion. You can see that because of the interaction, all people mobilize themselves around new concepts. And then, of course, the validity is open. You need half a century to sort out the good and the bad ideas. But you need this interaction to move from one holon to another. If not, you stay trapped in one holon. Today, we see this human environmental system idea in several sciences that I've shown. Herman Daly, we saw yesterday biology, cosmology, sustainability science, where the idea is, could we construct a science of interaction between human systems and environmental systems without reducing to one or the other? So it's not a hierarchical view, because of course you can think about emergence of humans from the physical, but then you don't need this type of science, because then you can separate them again. You can say that one emerges from the other, and I make my discipline separate again. Here the idea is that there are complex feedback loops and co-evolution, which obliges you to build interdisciplinarity and pluridisciplinarity. This concern for human environment system is clearly present in systems Earth ethics or in the encyclic Laudato Si, so it's a broader discussion again, which enriches the concept. And in art, one can think, for instance, about Trisha Brown on postmodern dance, which used gravity in her pieces of art, and also reflection about gravity in human-environmental interactions. So, my conclusion on this interaction between science, the arts, and ethics is that if you want to search beyond the streetlight, and I'm using here a story which is close to this Eddington story that we heard yesterday. And so if I just 1 minute left, I can just, it's this searching beyond the streetlight metaphor is about a drunk man who is searching on the street and a policeman comes and says, what are you doing? Oh, I'm searching something, can I help you? Yes, and then they start searching together under the streetlight. And then after 5 minutes, the policeman asks, by the way, what are you really searching for? And the drunk man said, I'm searching for my keys. And then the policeman asks, but are you sure your keys are here? And he says, no, 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 I lost my keys in the park. And the policeman said, but why are you searching here? But I'm searching here because here that the light is shining. And I think it's a very nice image, of course. We can only search where the light is shining. Or how can we go beyond the shining light? Move from one holon to another holon. What is the street like today? It's our mathematics, our conceptual grids, the idea to work in disciplines. Could we search beyond the street light? And I think what I try to illustrate is that some interaction between the arts, natural language debates on fundamental norms and worldviews might help us to search beyond the street light, knowing that you have to make clear distinction between validity and evolution of sciences. And within the scientific validity, I think there's a lot to learn about pluridisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity among different attempts to do this, and to refine our concepts like scenario building, forecasting, backcasting, computer simulation. All these tools are used in these sciences and are used across the board. And I think a reflection on the epistemology of these tools is key to move forwards. The question for future research would be to conceive of science itself as a human environmental system, which is transdisciplinary. So meaning that what would be the appropriate environment of this new type of sciences? What would be the life-supporting environment of interdisciplinarity? Are our universities the appropriate life-supporting systems of this new type of science? Or do we need to be creative as well there? So that's an open question for debate. I would like to thank you for your attention with a picture which was taken by Thierry Demey. And I take the opportunity just to thank also them to be here as artists in residence, taking part of our workshop. And so this picture was clearly a human environment picture. It was taken on Toit d'un gratte-ciel, so on a building in Brussels. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this stimulating talk. One or two questions before lunch? Any? Maybe just one question about the possibility to go from one holon to the other.
Sure.
You can. How do you think about general method to transfer some information from one holon to the other without confusion, for example, or without?
Sure. So the idea behind this is that there's a limit to any mathematical model, which is its relation to its domain of application. And so basically you start with a model and one domain application. And then you, by metaphor, you add the domains application and you obtain a family of models. But this family of models is limited, it's a limited countable infinity. So they are infinite, they are countable because they can move from one to the other. So the theory of Gödel then says that, of course, there is uncountable infinity. So that's why this mathematical model will not extend beyond the infinite family of countable models. So if you then construct a new holon, there will be overlapping between a countable set of family of models, and in the second holon we also have a countable, and the individual will overlap. So you are allowed to take a one valid testable submodel and to expose it to another one. So again, this is an argument for interdisciplinarity as a key to make the whole thing move.
Okay, thank you.